We trust the medical profession with our health and well-being, but the best of surgeons can sometimes make mistakes, fatal mistakes. This video exposes the truth of those frightening tales of amputations gone wrong. Medical accuracy is essential for surgical processes because even the slightest mistake can drastically alter a person's life forever. We're going to learn about the horror stories of Willie King, whose wrong leg was cut off, Benjamin Houghton, as the wrong testicle was removed, and Jesica Santillan, who died due to a mistake of organ transplant. We bring these cases together in hopes of trying to understand why awful errors like this happen, and ways they may be avoided in the future. Come join us as we discover the human side behind these medical mishaps and the lessons learned from them. Surgical errors are mistakes that occur during a surgical procedure in which the intended surgery is not properly done and complications are developed or new problems are created, all resulting in injury to the patient. The mentioned reasons may lead to surgical errors. Knowledge of these errors is very important for improvement in medical practices and patient safety. Some common types of surgical errors include wrong site surgery, where a procedure is done on the wrong body part. Wrong patient surgery, where the wrong person has a procedure done. Surgeons who may perform unnecessary operations, accidental injury to organs, and leaving surgical instruments in a patient. Each of these can lead to dire, sometimes life-threatening consequences. Statistics show that the occurrence of surgical errors is appallingly high. A study published in JAMA Surgery proclaims that there are more than 4,000 preventable surgical errors each year in the United States. Such errors would also include surgery on the wrong site or the wrong patient with the wrong procedure. Though very few incidents happen in comparison to the total number of surgeries taking place, the impacts can be deep, with serious harm to patients and related legal consequences, and loss of trust in the health system. The discussions only serve in no small measure further to underscore the vital importance of performing adequate root cause analysis for surgical errors. Root cause analysis is a methodical process that aims at finding the root causes of errors and devising strategies for the prevention of these errors in the future. Healthcare professionals should, based on the reasons for an event occurring, create changes that could be implemented to prevent such an event from taking place. It is an approach involving mapping out the sequence of events leading to the error and asking why up to the revelation of all contributing factors. This makes healthcare facilities to build upon their systems, improve communication with the staff, and establish checks and balances to catch potential errors before occurring. This proactive approach is pivotal for reducing surgical error occurrences and making sure that patients are safe. The real, chilling proof is that the story of Willie King, just one puny little mistake, can turn into a horrendous, life-threatening ordeal. In truth, it was supposed to be February 20th, 1995, when a 51-year-old diabetic with severe circulatory disease named Willie King should have had his right leg amputated below the knee. This is what transpired. Even more shockingly, the surgeon amputated the man's other leg. It was a horrifying mistake, headlining news across the nation and imprinting an indelible scar on the medical community. The error started with issues relating to paperwork. Blackboard in the OR, the appointment sheet for the OR, and the computer system that the hospital used to schedule surgeries all indicated that the wrong leg was to be amputated. The pre-surgical consent form and the medical history identified the correct leg. None of these crucial documents were required reading by the surgeon before the operation. King was in such a state that his two legs appeared to be victims of gangrene, so no doubts came to the mind of the surgeon about the appearance of the leg he would cut off. The surgical site was not confirmed with the patient before the procedure. In fact, it was never asked directly of King by the operating surgeon regarding the site, as she was not consulted preoperatively. This communication gap between King and the operating surgeon created a disastrous blind spot. The short-term results were drastic and immediate. Willie King awoke to the reality that it was his left leg that had been cut off, not his right. The surgeon was publicly vilified, fined, and lost his practicing license for 2 years. The hospital, however, found itself under public scrutiny and negative publicity, settling the case with King to the tune of $900,000, while the doctor paid an additional $250,000. That case underlined very sharply the devastation in human life that surgical mistakes can cause. This eventually influenced the following major changes that were geared at ensuring such hellish mistakes do not happen again in the future. The doubling of the identification system was put in place. Computerized error tracking system added and increased patient safety officers in the hospital. In addition to this, Florida, the state in which the incident took place, enacted a regulation that demanded all surgeons to hold meetings with all the members of the surgical team to confirm the exact patient, procedures, and site before surgeries are conducted. What is more, now the surgeon must see patients while awake to mark the site of surgery for procedures to prevent this type of mistake from happening in the future. One other catastrophic surgical error that haunts the medical field is the case of Benjamin Houghton. In 2006, U.S. Air Force veteran Benjamin Houghton went to a VA hospital in Los Angeles seeking treatment for an atrophied and painful left testicle. What his doctor had suspected was testicular cancer, thus the decision to remove the affected organ. However, what was supposed to have been a simple procedure turned out nightmarish. Yet, in that surgery, the medical team performed one of the most terrifying of mistakes. He cut out his healthy right testicle and not the one with the disease that needed to be removed, the left one. The problem related to a wrongly filled in consent form and the lack of marking for the right testicle prior to operation. This was only discovered after the surgery had been completed, and Houghton was left in shock, not believing that it could have happened. For him, the major physical and life-altering effects were the sexual dysfunction, depression, and osteoporosis that followed. The wrongful removal of his healthy testicle did not just do nothing to alleviate his condition at the time, but actually added new and seriously crippling health issues. The horror in waking up to the amazement is realizing one of your body parts was removed. When the egregious error was committed, Houghton and his wife sued the Veterans Administration, arguing that what it did slams his health and well-being. They reached a $200,000 settlement in the lawsuit, but no amount of money could really make up for the irreversible damage done. In this regard, the hospital's response to the incident was tighter protocols that can avert such grave mistakes in the future. It started training the surgeons and the medical team to ensure that there were mandatory, pre-operative checklists that instruct on the need for double-checking and marking the site for surgery. On the other hand, its staff was given improved training regarding the need to verify patient information to surgical sites in all operations. The tragic story of Jesica Santillan is a glaring example of frightful and lethal medical error. The 17-year-old girl from Mexico, Jesica, urgently needed transplantation of the heart and lungs, as her cardiomyopathy had weakened all the organs in the body. All her family members set great hopes on the fact that Duke University Medical Center was known to be experienced in such operations, but this surgery was meant to save her life and turned out to be the most chilling ordeal. The nightmare started while Jesica was being transplanted. Without her knowledge or that of her family, she had received an organ of a different blood type. Amazingly, nobody had cross-checked her blood type against that of the donor throughout the whole process. At the end of the surgery, the medical team realized that a huge mistake had just taken place. Instantly, Jesica's body went into rejection to the unmatched organs, setting off a chain reaction of catastrophic repercussions. The reaction was sudden and quite serious. Her body began to reject the alien organs, and her condition started to deteriorate quite rapidly. By the time the team of doctors had organized to conduct another transplant with properly cocooned organs, it was already too late. Jesica suffered an irreversible hypoencephalopathy due to the lack of oxygen during the crisis. Just a few days following the second surgery, Jesica's family was put into the painful situation where they had to decide to turn off the life support machines. She died on February 22, 2003. A loss that was beyond imagination for her family and the medical community. Later on, Jesica's family sued Duke University Medical Center, and the case was later settled in 2004. The deal was confidential, but the loss and pain were irreparable. This gruesome error became most deserving to be corrected in medical procedures so that its recurrence could be avoided. All hospitals in the country learned this lesson, and new verification for donor-receiver compatibility with the strictest methods as possible made it relatively considerable forwarding to transplantation and mandating checks on blood type and other significant factors. Another of the nightmarish consequences of the medical errors is a case involving Jesica Rodriguez. In the autumn of 2015, a woman in her 50s felt a bump in her breast and rushed to doctors. She was given a biopsy and told to wait for good news, which did not happen, as now she had been diagnosed with something that will turn her entire life around. The pathologist made a conclusion that the lump in the breast was a malignant tumor, thereby causing a chain of actions which would end in horror. Trusting the diagnosis, Jesica went to another hospital for a mastectomy to remove her supposedly cancerous breast. What she didn't know was that a serious error had taken place. The initial biopsy sample had been misread. In fact, her lump was benign, but the hospital was going to go ahead with the mastectomy without independently examining the biopsy slides, as it was protocol. The surgery proceeded, and Jesica awoke to discover that not only had her breast been removed for no good reason, but that the review of the excised tissue performed after the surgery also found no cancer, but benign changes only. Clearly, this was an error, as reviewing the first biopsy agreed there was no cancer. Consequences of this mistake were catastrophic. Jesica not only experienced the physical trauma of a removed breast, but also had heavy emotional and psychological suffering. She got the unnecessary surgery manifest in blood clots, surgical hernia, and pulmonary embolism. Feeling betrayed and destroyed, Jesica filed a lawsuit against the hospital to receive just compensation for her distress, medical expenses, and the irretrievable damage received in her life. The hospital, however, after severe criticism, realized its practices and very strictly imposed an embargo on such horrible blunders will repeat themselves. They made it mandatory that biopsy test results are reconfirmed, which are critical diagnoses to be reviewed by more than one pathologist. Also, they strictly imposed compliance monitoring of their procedures, which required fully independent reviews before undergoing major surgeries. The horrifying experience of Jesica Rodriguez only underscores the need for preciseness and attentiveness toward all that is medical. Her story reminds one of the terror and destruction that can easily emanate from a single case of misdiagnosis. It does underscore further the relevance of stringent and careful medical practices. The case of Bimla Nayar in 2012 is a chilling reminder of the nightmarish possibilities of surgical settings. Visiting the center with a dislocated jaw, she went with all hopes but was met with an avalanche of tragic events that occurred one after the other. The operation had started with Nayar's innocent wish to finally and definitively find an end to the painful ordeal that time had turned into her life. But the macabre turn had almost come as a matter of course, as the surgical team, lost in a labyrinth of missing records and mistaken decisions, had set course in an unchangeable way, but of its own making. Instead of treating Nayar's dislocated jaw, they went on a misadventure, an unintended craniotomy. These portray the sheer horror as Nayar, drugged and incapable, is put through an invasive procedure to a body, for a soul, that was not its destination. The cold sterility of the operating room became an image of medical misjudgment gone bad, as scalpels cut through layers they were never supposed to puncture. The consequences were catastrophic and inevitable. For the victim of such monstrous oversight, it meant not only an ordeal of misguided surgery by Nayar, but the ultimate price of her life. A theater of healing turned into a theater of tragedy, leaving behind a void echoing with the screams of a battle lost. Legal repercussions only added a more macabre layer to the tale of horror. As the justice system tried to find its way through this maze of medical negligence, Nayar's family was coming to terms with a loss that was almost incomprehensible. The ramifications went quite far and wide from individual grief. There was hardly any reassessment insight for the surgical protocol and the brittle trust in medical institutions. Now, Here's a question for you. What additional steps do you think healthcare facilities can take to further reduce the risk of surgical errors and ensure patient safety? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this information valuable, please remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Thank you for watching.